Welcome back. In this video, we're going to make a pegboard in Inventor. So the pegboard, we're going to start out as just going to be two basic rectangular extrusions, and then we are going to go ahead, make one circle, and then pattern it. So I'm going to start my first sketch. My first sketch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make both rectangles for the front and the back. So under Polygon, Rectangle, just going to go ahead. First one is 20, tab, 10, enter. Just going to zoom out. Let's rotate this, and then I'm just going to make another one a little bigger than it, and it's not going to lock into any places on our screen. So it's 21.1, enter. Oops, wrong direction. Alright, so that would be 11.1. And then the other one is 21.1. Enter. Now from here, I get to use horizontal and vertical constraints. So both those constraints I'll be able to use to get them constrained together and be one in the middle of the other. So if I click on vertical constraint, I believe that's the direction that I'm at. I can pick the center of this line and then the center of this line, and it lines them up. So they're both in line with each other, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but now that one has to be a horizontal constraint. So center dot and center dot. That way I get them both lined up and they're exactly in the center of each other. I'm going to extrude. Each one was 0.25 thick, so I'm going to extrude both of them at first, 0.25, enter. And then I can click on this plus sign here on the extrusion 1 in the browser bar, and there's my sketch again. Now it goes hidden at first, so I need to right click it and turn visibility back on. So if it's hidden, you got to turn the visibility back on, and every time you do an extrusion, it does that to the sketch if it's the first extrusion on that sketch. Now for my second extrusion, it is not going to hide it for me. It automatically started to say it wanted to cut. I didn't want that. I want to make, and then I'm going to make it. And then you can see my sketch is actually still visible. So I'm going to right click the sketch, turn visibility back off, and there we go. I now have my two rectangles as they're set up here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to make the hole. The hole is 0.5 diameter, and it goes in 0.25. And it's going to be 1 inch over and 1 inch down from one of the corners. So I'm just going to set this up the same direction, create a sketch on my front surface, zoom into the same corner, and then I'm going to project geometry. This way, once I project geometry, you're going to see those yellow lines of the corner of my object, and that's what I can measure to. From here, I'm going to use the point command. I'm going to just put a point randomly on that surface, and I am going to dimension to that point from my lines that are there. So if I click on the top line, click on the point, and go over, I can put in a dimension in that direction. If I click on the point, click on the line at the side, I can put in the other one of 1 inch. Once I have both those set up, I'm going to finish my sketch, and I will be able to go ahead and use the hole command. So when I click on hole, it brings up a screen here for me, and it also selects the point that I had created. Generic start off for all of this, it just goes, this is a basic hole, just a drilled hole. It is going to have a diameter here of 0.25, and then it says termination is through all. We don't want the termination to be through all, we want it to be actually at a distance. And our distance is going to be the 0.25, and then our diameter is the 0.5. And then I click OK, and I have my first hole. So now that I have my first hole, I can start using that to make a pattern. So let's go ahead, go bottom bar. You can see when you look across, sketch, create, work features, modify, and then patterns. I'm going to use the rectangular pattern, which is the top one, and from there I can start clicking on the parts that are in here that it tells me to do. First thing, it says feature. That means what I want to actually use and move around and make copies of. Then I want to pick my first direction. So I'm going to click on the direction that goes across. Doesn't matter which of the horizontal lines that I pick. I picked it, and standard it goes to the left, so I could flip it to the right. And there are 19 of these, and it's already preset to my 1-inch distance apart. And then I want to go in direction 2. And I'm going to click here. It's already going the direction I want, so that's good. But I'm going to want 9 of those. Now, sometimes our computers are a little slower than we want them to be, and it may not work for us as we want. So it might result in a pattern that is larger than the number of occurrences that it would allow. Even though this is a cool pattern, this isn't quite what we wanted. We actually want them all the way across and all the way down. So since this is an issue, we're just going to go back, have our one row, and we're going to make this row. So with this large of a pattern, we've got to do 2 rectangular patterns to make all the holes. So now it's going to process through. It made all of the holes going across, and I'm going to do a rectangular pattern again. Now this time for the features, I'm going to click on the hole and the pattern. This way I have all of them highlighted, every single one that I want, and then we are just going to do direction 1, and we're going to do the downward direction. We're going to do that 9 times. Even though it's the same amount of holes, it just takes less processing power, so it will let us do it this way instead of doing the full pattern at once. So then I click OK, and there we go. I have a pegboard. All I have left to do is color it. Good luck. Have fun.